Yes. So,
All right, welcome, welcome, welcome.
welcome, yes, to another great evening. What we got here? Making sure we are all set. We are live. Our comments are on. Okay,
All
awesome.
right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great episode of Conversations Under the Hood. I am your host, Robert Helm, and we have our wonderful co host, Dr. Lindy Helm. Clap it up, y'all. We're glad to have Dr. Helm here tonight. And we have the wonderful Robert Green, aka Compass Ion, in the house tonight. Welcome to the show again, everybody. We're excited to be here. Um, we're going to start out tonight just kind of recapping. And we do this pretty much regularly. We talk about a little bit about the things that we discussed in our previous show. And we like to talk about what we call nuggets, right? Gold nuggets or just nuggets if you want to. But ultimately, they are pieces of advice or, things like that anyway, that hopefully you can grasp something from it and be able to apply it to your life or to situations, kind of help you moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tonight we're gonna just start out by talking briefly about our special guest that we had last week, Manswell T. Peterson, and that was pretty exciting. It was unexpected, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was
So
awesome.
that I don't know how prepared we were for that because it was definitely kind of last minute, but it worked out great, right? He had some great things to share. He said he had what 5 or 6 nuggets at least, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
share. So that was pretty good. So let's kind of start there. Let's start with the nuggets. If y'all remember, one thing that I drew from that conversation that we had with Manswell was the gatekeeping comment, not to gatekeep, and to me that is something that I think is I take that very personal because I know throughout my life, different jobs and different, whether I was working for someone or in business, I've kind of seen that whole gatekeeping piece kind of play out. And
Can we break down what it means to gatekeep? So for
well,
those that don't know, understand what gatekeep.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can start with my what I define it as,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that may be different for other people, but for me, what I saw as gatekeeping was situations where people were in authority or in a position where they had the ability to say yes or no to maybe something that you were presenting, whether it's a product or what have you.
Yeah. Or
Um,
access to resources,
yeah,
even.
Withholding knowledge,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Access to
power.
yeah,
resources. Yeah.
exactly that.
Access
Just
to opportunities.
right.
Have figured out the perfect methodologies,
Right.
Yep,
and the strategies
yep.
for whatever it is that you're looking for.
Right. I say the
Mm-hmm.
person on the other side of the door who can either open it or keep you
Keep
from
it
getting in.
closed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I see as a gatekeeper. But what about you? What do you?
I mean, I kind of see it the same. You
Okay.
know,
All right.
for
Mm-hmm.
somebody like I just said, withholding knowledge as power.
Yeah.
If you don't know have the knowledge, that lacks the power to achieve or accomplish whatever you're trying to do. So to hold back or retain something, a tool or knowledge, to
Mm-hmm.
further someone else to
Mm-hmm.
maintain power
Sure.
or
Mm-hmm.
upper or higher status.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's how I kind of see it too.
Yeah. And in the industry that Manswell is in, as a artist.
It's just
Well,
corporate.
yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna
Mm-hmm.
say. He's an
Yeah, as an
author.
author,
All of
60
those
Family
plus
things.
business.
books in
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah.
That is amazing. 7 different genres,
Yeah.
paranormal universe.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I mean, this brother is really deep.
Yeah. Well.
It's really heavy. And
That.
for him to reach out to us,
Yeah.
and want to share what he knows,
Yeah.
I think it speaks to, the first nugget that we're just talking about here,
Gatekeeping.
gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he realized that, hey, wait a minute, I wrote more than 60 books that are available in Amazon. I have access to all this other knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
Free.
not, right? Even though he may have paid for it,
Right.
he may have, worked really, really hard to
Right.
open those doors, and everything. And what I really respect and truly appreciate is that he's not using that to say, hey, I worked really hard. I had to figure this out by myself, and therefore you have to do it.
Right.
So, what I understand, Mr. Manswell Peterson and Dr. Peterson, of course, is like reaching back for the people that are trying to do the same thing,
Right.
and leaving the door open, so other authors, can get in
Absolutely.
and therefore share the success because it's just enough to go around.
Right.
So gatekeeping, I think the mentality behind that is that you think that there's not enough to go around.
Right.
Or perhaps you're so drunk in success and
Mm-hmm.
attention that you don't want anybody else to, have that success. So you just close the door behind you or make it difficult for other people to see it. But I thought that was really profound
Yeah.
as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. I mean, with all of those things, actually, you know, I was reflecting watching the video because I don't know about you all, but I watched the last show probably at least 4 times, and I know I've listened to it at least twice, and just kind of playing it through to see what could we do better in terms of our presentation. Was there some questions that we could have asked that we didn't ask? Those kinds of things. But the more I listened to it, the more I realized, like, I felt like everything that really needed to be revealed was revealed. In relationship to who Manswell is as a person, right? The things that he's been able to achieve in the 17 or 18 years, I believe it was, writing professionally. And so I didn't want to really get into talking too much about written by kids, right?
Right.
Because that show was really more an opportunity for us to learn more about him share the things that he has.
What is written by kids?
Well, that's where we're going to go. But I just wanted to make sure that for anybody who is currently watching or who might be watching this video, we do have posted in the comments, and I think it's pinned to the top of the comments. Mr. Manswell has a couple of free books that he has currently that's on Amazon. For those of you who want to give a try, give his products a try. I think it's a great opportunity to really kind of get a peek at the world as he sees it. I think you said it was paranormal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, paranormal universe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and another thing too that I also wanted to mention, because when I was listening to the show, one thing that I had caught, I don't know that I really heard it the first time, but he was talking about that him and his wife. They do, I think it's either called Read Across America or Reading Across America.
Yeah,
And
Dr. Peterson, she writes children's books now.
Yeah, and so they've got 6 children books. I think it's called, it's either Braylon and the Bear series, or I think that's what it was, Braylon.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
Amazon, you Google it, it comes right up.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was great. And so that, talking about that and looking at that, from last week's show to this week's show, it made me think, like, okay, so this is a great opportunity for us to also talk about written by kids, because written by kids, is also based on children's books, and really, I mean, the whole company really is based on kids, and so. Read Across America, Manswell says. Okay,
Read
Manswell.
Across America.
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. Yeah, well, I knew it was something. We were trying to get it together.
Yeah.
Braylon and the Bears. Okay, I love it.
Yeah. And another thing to mention about that, too, that Dr. Peterson and Manswell as well emphasized, in last week's show, is that it's imperative for children to read. Read with comprehension. That's going to really help them in all their endeavors.
Right.
Because if you do not know how to read, let alone with comprehension, it makes it really difficult to be successul in whatever it is that, you look
Absolutely.
into. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
I'm trying to...
Point very well taken.
Let's see here. I gotta go. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Yeah, so, those, I think Braylon and the Bear, I think having 6 books, and I think they said they were looking to put out another 6 books,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think that's great because, when we have 5 kids, right, and, we go back to pre-technology, we had a house full of books, man, especially with my wife being, a big reader and an educator like she is. So there was all different kinds of books, different kinds of subjects, from medical stuff to,
History.
Yeah, history, fun
Geography.
stuff. Yeah, all of those different kinds of books. And I think those books, being around my children, my oldest, she is 23 now. And so you were asking about what is written by kids. And I'm gonna let you, instead of, because I don't want to just keep talking. I'd like to give you an opportunity to just tell them.
You know, the thing is, our kids, again, our daughter who's now 23, she's gonna kill us for showing all these pictures that she used to draw when she was like about 7, 8, 9, 10. I remember coming home one time and, you know, I opened the door. Normally they run to the door, mommy, mommy, I get hugs. You know, this day they just sat there and they were concentrating on TV. You know, they were watching this show. If I remember correctly, it was something like As Told by Ginger. You know, I still remember that. And all the attention was there. So I'm walking in, I'm like, hi, kids. And nobody said anything. And I literally just saw my kids' brain or their reality being altered, you know, because of what they were watching. You know, like it was so important. Literally, you know, in my mind, I just saw the intelligence coming out of the other ear, and whatever that show was about, you know, going through and, you know, really impacting how they view themselves, how they relate to the world and reality, you know. And at that point, I realized that, you know what, paying for cable, this income diminishing or intelligence diminishing, you know, electronic.
Right.
So I've decided, you know what, we're turning off all the cables. And from now on, for entertainment, you got to read a book. So the kids, you know, to this date, they tease me because if any of them were to come to me and say, Mom, I'm bored, I say, grab a book.
That is so, hey,
grab a book.
That is not a lie. You know what? She used to say that so much that it actually frustrated me. I'm just like, dang, man.
You bored? Grab a book. We have so many books. What do you mean you bored?
Hey, so real quick here, Manswell, he says they got one more book. Braylon and the Bear book is coming this year. So they got one more coming this year and 7 more next year.
Awesome.
So that's going to be, what is that? That's going to be 14 books in the series. That's going to be awesome.
That's dedication and hard work.
That
right
is
there. Much
awesome.
Respect for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But
what was happening is like the kids, they started, you know, literally enjoying reading and drawing. And more than anything, you know, a couple of our kids were even being bullied at school. So we started telling them, write, you know, pour your emotion on paper. You know, don't hold it in. Write your experience. So our oldest daughter, she just wrote a lot about bullying. You know, what she was experiencing, what she was watching other kids experiencing, and the adults around them who were not literally doing anything about it, you know, to make it better. Yeah. You know, so she wrote a lot about that. And before we knew it, she published so many books. You know, some of them are available at Amazon as well.
Yeah.
So,
and out of those books, I was telling Rob earlier before the show started, you know, that A Bully with Love book and Bullying Prevention Guide that for parents, kids, and adults that we put out through Written by Kids. Those two happen to be some of my favorite books. And because, Rob, as I was telling you, when we were putting out books before, it was surprising to see how hungry, you know, parents and administrators, you know, of like child care providers and things of that nature were looking for books, especially books that spoke to morals and ethics and things like that. Because I think a lot of books, you know, and anybody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a big reader, so I'll be the first person to admit that. But a lot of these books, the messages are either so convoluted that it's really hard to get, right? Or they're kind of dreamy, right? Like, that's kind of how I imagine kids' books. And I could be way off base. But when I look at these children's books that my daughter wrote, they were from a kid's voice, you know? And a lot of kids' books are written by adults. And you can tell even the adults who have kid-like personalities or have the ability to connect with children. It's something very different, man, when a child writes a story, especially a story that speaks to morals or that speaks to ethics, because
it's very authentic.
Yeah, it's very genuine. Exactly.
And genuine.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, like our daughter, this is all her drawings. You know, this is all her own art. That's why now when she looked at it, she's like, "Oh, Mom, that's so cringe." But I think it's so wonderful, you know, to see them, you know, use their imagination, you know, reading and expressing themselves through writing. Right. That's really really good.
Well,
You can find all these books on
Amazon.
yeah,
Amazon.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? Funny enough, they are on, Amazon. I don't believe that they're active at the moment. So let me just say that
Yeah, we
because
gotta go back and
it's
make
been
sure
some
they're active.
time. My daughter now, she started writing when she was 10, 11 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
And as I was telling you, in her course of writing, it was amazing to watch how, the universities and even the administration in her schools, and even from the governmental side, man, like with written by kids and what she was doing, it took us to places that I don't think we could have gone
Yeah.
without that, man. I mean, we had an opportunity to work with the mayor on bullying prevention initiatives for the city of Lansing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did trainings for Michigan State University.
Yeah.
We did trainings for the state of Michigan. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and we talk about a 10, 11-year-old child that's doing presentations for these folks that
Yeah.
the CEOs of major corporations are opening for her when she does public speaking engagements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing to see that people would actually engage and listen to young people. And I'm saying all that to say that Written by Kids was built on the concept or the principle that, you know, children have a voice.
Yes.
And if we listen to what they're saying, we can learn,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's how we need to deal with them or how we need to alter ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so these books, I think she wrote like,
Ah, a
I
lot.
think there was,
To the point.
A
You
lot.
said-
I mean, I can't
You know,
even.
you said you have to understand them and learn. That's the same thing with business relationships.
right.
Because you have to learn that person. Something that I touched on, like something I learned when me and you working together.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to know the person.
Mm.
It's more than just you got to get deeper into like maybe somebody asks questions like what you going through something like that because you
Right.
may be having a bad day
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
and the way you say something to me, I could get offended not knowing that you only said that because you're having a bad day.
Right.
Mhm.
Instead of me listening to what you're asking me and what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
you might have said it in a way that you might have said something else offensively, but you didn't mean it that way. You
Right.
just said
Mhm.
it because you're thinking of something else and you had a question and blah blah. It came out the wrong way.
Right.
So
Mhm.
understanding that person and knowing them to the fullest in any relationship, like kids trying to talk to the parents and letting them know, like
Mhm.
communication basically is what
Mhm.
I'm saying is key
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
in every element of any relationship, whether it's business, personal relationship, husband, wife.
Absolutely.
So that just made me think about that. One of the points that I want to bring up today is the importance of communication.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Essential. I would
Yeah.
say it's essential.
Effective communication. And what I was gonna say too, Rob, to add to that, you're so spot on, right? Because if somebody is in the negative space or they're having a bad day, you can say something as positive as, how are you? Have a good day. And then in their mind, it's like, what's so good about it? Right? And then you
Right.
meant it so well. So I think something, Manswell touched on, last week as well. Like, your emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
like watch your facial expression, watch your posture. If you really want to have something to get something and you want it to be successful, you have to be mindful of how you come across.
That's the
Meaning
other side
that
of
be extremely aware of your emotions, how your body language, even your facial expressions and all
It's
of
very
that.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then another thing on top of that is like once you become aware of that, take accountability.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't be mad at the world because every door seems to be closed wherever you go
Mm-hmm.
without taking a minute and say, wait a minute, how do I come across in these spaces?
Right.
So that I think that was one of the most important point. But one thing I want to add about our children, when they started writing and we started paying attention
Mm-hmm.
and listening to their voice instead of trying to tell them how their voice should be.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I, we quickly learned that us parents can be bullies as
Right.
well. You know what I'm saying? Children are learning this behavior mostly from, their parents, their home and the outside world as well. So because there are other things that we cannot control. But what I realize is that as parents, we hold children to different standards,
Right.
compared to adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, for instance, I often talked about, like, if you ask a child for a hug, for instance, hey, honey, give me a hug, and the child say no, most of the time the parents will be like, oh no, come on now, give your auntie a hug or give your uncle a hug. Be a good kid, and taking that power
Right.
away from them.
Right.
But then we don't do that with adults, right?
Right.
If an adult say, hey, give me a hug, and you say, hey, I'm not a hugger, that's the end of the story. Okay, cool, right? But why do we feel like we have to force the children to do something that they don't want to do?
Right.
And they end up doing it. Why? Because they're being overpowered.
Right.
Or even in form of punishment. We punish kids harsh, and then we let the adults have a pass. And I've seen it over and over again. So, to the point where I'm like, okay, everybody really knows how to raise their child in the best way possible. It's just that in my own personal observation, I've realized that we hold children in different standards than we do hold adults, right? We teach adults to be respectful. I mean, children to be respectful of adults. What if as an adult I don't carry myself in a respectable manner?
Right. Right.
Right. So I mean, I know there's so much to unpack from that, and I don't want to derail this conversation, but that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, because there's so much to learn from children, and as adults there's so much that we can do as we learn to empower these children, make sure that they hold their power, they have their voice, so they make really productive, successful, and confident adults.
Right.
Because how we raise our children really can turn these children into the adults that they are in this world, not knowing how to stand up for yourself, being timid, all of that. So
Yeah.
just wanted to bring awareness to that anyway.
Yeah. No, that's right on too, because I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to really reflect back to Written by Kids, because as time has passed, right, as Nkiyasi has got older and has got focused on the things that she's on now,
In medical school.
yeah, the books that she's written have such a important message, right, that they're, what would you be, like, timeless in a way. And I remember that was one of the things that a few of the people, the publisher that we initially went to, with her first story, because her first, what kind of shifted us into publishing was her first book had got picked up by a publisher, because she had won an award, like I think it was called Caliberry or some writing award like that.
Award,
She won a writing award on the story, and through her school, and then from there, an author. I was networking with doing a business, small business networking thing. And I met this lady who was a publisher, whose father was an inventor, and that's what clicked between her and I, because I'm an inventor. And so I told her about my daughter, and then next thing you know, she was fascinated. She's like, "Oh my God, a young lady," and she fit the, the '70s look, man, big afro, big earring, just the whole nine. And so she took her under her wing, and before you know it, man, it went from that first book to several more. But go ahead. What's your question?
That just gave me a thought, because that touched on character. Her writing those bullying prevention books, those things that she went to.
Right.
It kind of built her compassion, her sense of empathy, because to be a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have that empathy and that compassion for people.
Absolutely.
To want to do those things to help those people.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So
She's
it kind
about
of
to.
stems back to
Yeah.
writing those books and going through like the bullying stuff and like all that stuff. So it kind of is looking back. You kind of see that.
Oh man,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah,
when we were talking to Manswell
She
last
is a
week,
pre-med, by the way.
Yeah.
So she's about to graduate. So
Yeah.
she is
She's
going
home.
to medical school.
23.
It's about
23.
yeah,
That's
23.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But last week when we were talking to Manswell, and he was talking about his wife and his son, and how his son was a senior VP.
Yeah,
and,
he's a VP.
Man, it just, like, bro, it was so
Profound.
Yeah, it just made me feel like I was reliving my own experience in a way, and so that was really exciting. But the other thing that I was going to say is that these books, as they evolve from her, because the way it all started with her is, like my wife said, she wasn't big on having them sit in front of the TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more about reading and drawing and doing that kind of stuff. And then her being the oldest, she kind of took the lead of teaching her siblings to do the same thing. So she was doing it even more and even more and even more.
Yeah.
And to the point where that became her passion. Drawing and writing was her passion. And that's how, that's actually what I wanted to go into, because our
drawing.
focus for this Conversations Under the Hood is about, bringing the idea of business and family together.
Yeah.
And that's what Written by Kids did for us, is it brought our family together in a way, um, through this
And the
business
pictures
of,
right at the back.
yeah, of promoting, positive information to families,
Yeah.
because one thing that I really liked about her books that were different than many other books is, even though they were kid books or kids books written by a kid, right? Um, they were profound because adults could really get the message. And Rob, listen to what I'm trying to tell you, man. We went to, I'm sorry, I know I'm getting excited now because I'm having flashbacks, man.
Yeah.
But we went to a place, Eagle Village. Remember Eagle Village?
Oh,
Bro, they had her
right.
come to Eagle
Eagle
Village.
Village?
Yes.
Yeah, to talk to the kids
Yes,
that
to speak with the
were,
kids. Do you remember that?
Juvie.
Up there in
What is that again?
Reed City? Wait a minute, you looking.
Eagle Village. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Eagle
it's
Village, they have
the
kids,
kids kind of like
that in trouble and they
trouble youth
being-
camp.
Yeah, trouble
yeah.
youth camp.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So
Yeah,
they
that
had
was-
her, and I have to thank Cyron actually, man, because
Yeah.
Cyron Williams is the one who like coordinated all that, but
Yeah,
it
he
worked
gets
out
involved
beautifully,
with
man.
it.
She had a chance to go and, as a little kid, bro,
Talk
to
these
talk to all of these
kids.
teenagers, all these troubled youth,
Yeah,
and
she was
you know,
always grown that
because
way.
she was, not only was she writing these books, but she was also doing public speaking engagements. So she was out there like doing motivational workshops and stuff.
Yeah,
And these young kids, man, it was amazing because I think about maybe a month or 2 months or something like that after we had went
yeah,
to speak there, we got a call from them indicating like one of their most troubled youth that they had, man, had turned her whole life around, bro.
yeah,
And she attributed it to that experience of her engagement, because my daughter and her, somehow they connected, man, like two opposite world, but somehow they connected when she was there. After she did her speaking piece, we went to lunch with the young kids afterwards, and it was just, like profound. So I was really passionate about getting out, trying to keep her in front of, people to continue to motivate these young folks. And after all, I think she had did either 10 or 14 books now, because you see, notice that's Spanish.
yeah.
So we
she
did 'em-
translated them to
Yeah,
Yeah,
Spanish,
we
too.
we
Yeah.
put them out in English and in Spanish.
Yeah,
And so that was pretty cool. But all of that led us to that bullying prevention guide.
Okay.
And then that bullying prevention guide was where my wife, my daughter, and myself were able to come together, and my son, some ways indirectly, because a lot of that stuff was kind of based off of our experience as parents with children that were
bullied.
bullied in some way or
Yeah,
another, and
and
our
my
response to that. And so many parents, man, and so many people that we connected with, because after we wrote the bullying prevention guide, we started conducting public forums, and we were holding them at the library, bullying prevention forums. And so we had a chance to meet a lot of people, talk about bullying prevention. We had the kids talking about, with all of these, man, it was just,
So for people out there that want to know what it takes to get published when it comes to writing books, what kind of information do you have? Like, what does it take to become a writer?
you want
Amazing.
to crack
So-
that later?
Besides the passion and the drive, the want.
Yeah, because
Hey,
it started
Well,
with
you
the-
a published PhD, so you could be the perfect person. Yeah.
The logistics. Of
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
So before I even get to the nitty gritty, so two things. Going back to the very first nugget that we talked about,
Right.
not gatekeeping. We have a greater source right now with over 60 books, right, in Amazon, and almost like 14 books, children's books to come. We're talking about Braylon and the Bear and everything like that. And this brother here, Manswell Peterson, he gives his information away. He is a publisher as well. So I will say first, kind of remember you told the story about Dr. Peterson, when his wife came and said, you know what, I'm ready to write. He said, are you ready? She's like, yeah. He's like, okay, sit down.
Right.
Write.
Right.
That's
Right.
answering one of my questions right there.
Right, there you go. So,
The motivation.
Yeah.
yeah, it is the same thing as that too as well. So it's similar to us. When you're ready to write, write it. And then, we will give you all the information, everything that we've learned not to do and what to do, who to publish with sometimes, but the people you trust. So that's where I want to partner, very closely here with Manswell Peterson and Dr. Peterson, because I really do love the family business, part of it. But not only that, the passion and the meaning of, understanding why children must read.
Right.
Because I'll tell you right now, my daughter in medical school right now, one of her biggest strengths, she can write very well.
Yeah.
And she reads very well, and she reads fast.
And
She's a UVM,
comprehends.
one of
Yeah.
the 10,
Yeah.
big 10 universities in the United States. So, and it's really difficult. And she's like, Mom, because I can read fast, with comprehension, and I can write, I'm able to get all these high grades in my schools. A lot of people are struggling, because that essential skill, they didn't get, the beginning. And I want to say also, the other thing too is like, I think I come from the family of authors. My niece in the UK, her name is Dombi Shibambu. Look her up. Gift Dombi Shibambu. She wrote a book. She wrote her novel a couple years ago. It must have been like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it's called Cancer and Afraid.
Oh, wow.
This young lady was going through that, right? And she wrote a book and published it. It's out there in Amazon as well. It's called Cancer and Afraid. So please look.
Cancer and Afraid.
And Afraid, yeah. So please look her up. Great author.
How do you
And
spell her
another one,
name?
Her name is N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, O, M, B as in boy, I. Last name Shibambu, Shibambo.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just, Google her, she comes out. And another one is my sister, actually, Jamela Robertson. She's in the UK. This is a novel right now, right there. And you can see her better at the back. So the thing is, the reason also we encourage our children to read is because, like I said, we did not have, cable television when I was growing up. So you read everything that, you can. But I realized that, wow, my daughter wrote all these books, but also is because my sister is an author. My niece, she's an author. And when you talk to both of them, they wrote how they felt. When there's nobody to listen and nobody will understand you, a pen and a paper or a typewriter or a computer nowadays, is your best friend. So that's where you start. Right.
But let's take that one step further, because I noticed that you acknowledged everyone but yourself. And you are Dr. Lindy Helm, published Dr. Lindy Helm. Your dissertation on the HIV/AIDS pandemic in South Africa was profound, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that you should be very proud of. It's something that we should definitely mention tonight. So if anyone is interested in the subject matter of HIV/AIDS pandemic in sub-Saharan Africa, we have Dr. Helm's published dissertation that can provide you substantial information. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, go on. Come on, man. We got time. That's hard work. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to emphasize, though, on that, it was an amazing opportunity. And the reason I was able to do that, I would have not done it without the support of my husband and my understanding children, because that takes a lot of your time.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah. A delay reaction, but I love it. Yeah, so having that support system, something that Manswell touched on, saying, his son being the VP of the company, keeping up with their calendar, blocking their calendar, and his wife having all the passwords, because you always have to be prepared. Life has a funny way of knocking on your door, showing up, the most unexpected time, but being prepared is really important. So that's one of the things that I took, from his, from the last week's show, from his message, that be prepared. So his wife has all his passwords, everything that she needs. So if life decide, to take a different route, she's prepared, she's ready, and she has everything. Right. So that's very important. So I'm saying that to say that I could have not done it without my family and the support of my husband. I was able to stand, on his strength to be able to, because it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But the emphasis on my study is the systems thinking, utilizing systems thinking to resolve problems or to curb the HIV/AIDS pandemic.
Right.
Back in the early 2000s. So 2013 is where I was doing the study. But to your point, Rob, earlier, is that you really gotta see a situation as a whole system, not what you want to focus on. Right. Even with employees,
Right.
like I'm in a place of leadership. My employees, I don't just see them as my employees. These are fully system. I care about their support system. Right. I care about their children. I care about their mental health. I care about the environment that I create in the workspace. Like when they come to like I always tell everybody, come as you are. Don't leave who you are at the door.
Right.
Come as you are, because you're just as important and you matter to me. And then together we can come here to work together, to fulfill the organizational objectives together. But yeah, so
I love it. This is no, this is absolutely lovely, because look,
can go
we
on and
are
on.
we're just over the midpoint in our show, right? And so now let's dive deep. So we've been jumping around. We've been talking about some great things. That Manswell has done. Manswell T. Peterson, has done. We've talked about his free books that he has available on all platforms right now. We've talked about written by kids and young authors. We've talked about your dissertation, and so now let's try to dive a little bit deeper into now the how, right? Because as we were saying before, and I think you asked the question, Rob,
Yeah.
like how do you write, or how do you go into that? So let's jump into that part of the conversation, and I only want to do that because, again, our goal is to leave something on the table that other people can benefit from, right? So with that, we have I forgot to introduce the teddy bear, y'all. Let me forget to introduce Teddy over
He's a
here.
reader.
Yeah, hey,
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
sorry, ladies and gentlemen. He's preoccupied reading right now, and might I say, the book that he's reading, what is that? The Day Before Yesterday is one fantastic book, but
Written, who's that book written by?
that book was written by
Nkiyasi
Nkiyasi
Helm.
Helm, actually.
Our daughter,
Yes,
she has
yes.
so many of them out there.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I think that's what he's trying to show us.
I think that's it. So
Teddy.
yeah, all right, Teddy.
Teddy, yeah.
Grass.
Not petty grass, right?
He's a bear of few words.
Right. So yeah. So on that note, man, I would like to go a little deeper in the how, right? Because, and this is where I think I can speak, maybe a little more deeply on, because with my daughter, when she started down that path of becoming an author, and as I said at the beginning, I was networking, and that's how we met the publisher, and then from there, her and my daughter were able to go way further. But what that process looked like, it started with first recognizing that there was an opportunity,
Yeah.
and seeing that my daughter really truly enjoyed writing and really enjoyed reading and drawing, and realizing how much money we were spending on crayons and paper, and sometimes you don't pay
Great
attention to that
investment.
kind of stuff because you think you just satisfying needs or desires. But the more that I paid attention to that this is what she prefers to do at any opportunity, that's when the realization came that maybe we could turn this into a opportunity for her future, and in that, I know that my own drive as an entrepreneur and as an inventor, I know that it probably made me more prone to overlooking all of the small things that I should have been looking at, like, how young she is and how she interacts with people and how she feels about,
And all the exposure.
yeah, all of that stuff, and anxiety and this and that, that she might be
Yeah.
dealing with. I have to be honest and say that I probably missed a lot of that,
Yeah.
with the desire to
Help
her
be
succeed.
successful.
Yeah, like that's really what my motive was, is to make it a situation where she could win, off of what she was already doing. So by the time she needed to do something, it was done already. So that was kind of where my approach was. And so I introduced her to all kinds of people, and man, we
TV
traveled up, man, bro,
shows.
all over. I'm talking about, man, we done
Shows
done
on
stuff in
TV.
Chicago, and I don't even know all of the places we done been actually to do interviews and different things like that. But
Yeah.
in the goal of trying to position her after recognizing that she had a passion for something that she could turn into a business, and so I talked to her about that, and tried to encourage her, and like I said, what probably I should have done as her father is paid attention more from that side than
Yeah.
from the business side,
Him,
because
her.
I was looking at like, man, if you do this and this, and I was more like an agent, you know what I mean? Like they'll push you out the window if they can, but and so when I
Yeah.
look back and I reflect on that now, I realize that there's things that I could have done better that may have changed even the outcome of where we are today with that. But I encourage parents, and why I wanted to go deeper was to encourage not just parents but people in general. When you see a young person who is engaged in something that they truly are passionate about, whether they articulate it or not, if you can see it's something that they really really enjoy doing, if there's an opportunity to help them or guide them into a path where they might be able to benefit from that, either now or in the future,
Yeah.
you are way better off to do that, you know what I mean, than to just support it as a hobby, because I think, me, I've been pretty much, I don't want to say a lifelong entrepreneur, but pretty doggone close, man. You know what I mean? Like when I lived in Grand Rapids, I remember growing up without a whole lot of stuff, and when you don't have things, you try to make things for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where my desire to push for every opportunity comes from, and it does take a kind of a special mind to kind of be prepared to take that and go forward, because it can be a challenge. So I'm saying all that to say that when it comes to publishing a book, and I know this is a long route back to your question, but I think to number one, enjoy the fact that you write or that you enjoy writing, is like the first step, that you in the subject matter that you're writing about, something that you're passionate about, because some folks, like, they write about things that are fiction, so it doesn't, you know what I mean, like I think it takes a different mindset to write about fiction stuff than it does to write about things that are like factual,
Right.
nonfiction.
Right. So, yeah, but I think what I'm understanding you to say is find joy
Right.
in whatever it is. Be authentic, find joy, whether it's your biography, your own real story, fiction, paranormal universe, for Mr. Peterson, as he was telling us last week, instead of trying to do something that is so external from you and try to give it a meaning. That's where, sometimes, a lot of people get stuck.
Frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated, and all of a sudden it's like an arduous job to do. If you can find joy in what you do, not just in writing, but in everything else, even my day-to-day job, if you find joy, you're more likely to do that work with
Right.
with minimal stress,
Right.
and you're more likely to enjoy it, versus the other way around. But something you touch on that I thought was really important is that as we provide and push these children, because they exhibit some sort of a talent that we want them to perfect, we also have to be paying attention to their emotional health, their mental health,
Right.
their stress level.
Right.
And, my husband, I appreciate you being vulnerable on that, because sometimes we push so hard and we don't pay attention to what the child may be going through. We missed when she's being anxious, that does not want to be in front of all these people that she doesn't know. And we're like, no, honey, you'll do great. Get in there, do what you do. And we missed a lot of things. And so what happened, writing for her, continuing with publishing and everything, it became strenuous. Right? It became, stressful.
Right.
And then she started pulling away, and we didn't understand that. But to his point, it's like, regardless of what it looks like, we need to pay very close attention to our kids. We need to listen to them, and we need to let them know, that they are believed. We are going to believe you.
Right.
You know, and then we open those channels of communications
Right.
because kids, they know so much, they experience so much, they're going through so much. But if we don't come across like we believe them, we're not listening in everything they don't tell us, you know. And so some of these, like when my daughter writes, you know, some of these things, sometimes I had to sit down. I'm like, honey, did you experience that in school? Or she's like, no, but I was sitting next to somebody who's going through this.
Right. Right.
And this is how I observe the adults around me.
Right.
You know, like she's like, I will raise my hand and say, that kid grabbed this kid's lunch. And the teacher will say, stop telling, you know, shutting the child down. You know, so when she started writing, and that's what we learned from, you know, all her books, you know, that she was pouring those emotions, you know, as I was saying before.
Being bullied by the teacher
Right.
for trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And then you get
Absolutely.
shut down by the
Yeah,
teacher
you get shut
Yeah.
in
down.
a form of bullying.
Yeah, stop being a teller. And the other thing is, one thing that parents do sometimes, and I've seen this and I learned from that and try not to do that with my kids, right? Like my son, for instance, he's really just a wonderful kid. He's not aggressive in nature. So if he comes home and say, I was bullied, and then sometimes parents will like, did you fight back? And start shaming that kid, right? You didn't fight back. You know, next time you gotta hit that bully in the mouth and do all of this. What if your kid is not an aggressive kid, and you're re-traumatizing that kid and shaming him and making him feel like he's not adequate for not, you know, being violent back to the kid, you know, who was violent with him. He's not a violent kid. That's not who he is. And so trying to make him who he isn't, you teaching him to be a bully.
Right.
You know what I'm
most
saying?
bullies
And all
get
that.
shut down. Not
Yeah.
a high percentage, but most of them, a lot of them, kindness.
Kindness.
So instead of
That resonate. Yeah.
retaliating, fighting back,
Yeah.
sometimes you might have changed that bully's whole life, his
Right.
whole perspective.
Hello.
That one day of you being there, you go right there. That one
Bully-
day you
bully
being
with
kind to
love.
that bully
Yeah.
might have made him think like, I'm really doing too much.
Bro.
Like that, you know, I really didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That is the
Here's-
moral of that story right there, literally.
Oh my goodness, that's what my daughter did. She befriended her bully. Come to find out, there was a bigger story behind, you know, this kid who was, you know, physically bigger than her, stronger than her, louder than her, and everything.
Right.
So my kid, you know, my daughter became really interested. Like, what's up with her? You know, when I go home, my, you know,
What's her name? Bertha Buns, Latifah.
Bertha
something.
Buns, yeah,
Buns.
all her. She had
Yeah,
four names, and they all started with the B. You know, it's like,
yeah.
oh, this poor
Yeah,
kid.
man.
Yeah, come to find out, that's the name she gave herself because she wanted, you know, that significance
Right.
for other
It up.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I'm
exactly.
big,
Yeah,
get you
Yeah,
big
right,
people
right,
up.
right.
Yeah. So my kid, he started kind of like stalking this kid, following this kid, but she learned that this was the saddest kid who was adopted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Still trying to find herself. And her way to keep people from knowing who she was, because she wasn't proud of who she was and everything else, to hide who she was just mean to everybody, to push everybody away. You know, and then, but she couldn't push my daughter away because my daughter just kept returning kindness, just kept, you know. And then finally she's like, do you want me to beat you up? And my daughter's like, that would be nice, but will that make you feel better? You know, and she was like,
That's where it's important
yeah.
to separate the emotion from the words.
Right. Yeah.
What's actually being said. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
where you miss the understanding of that bully even.
Yeah.
The problem may be because you're just looking at the meanness of him, how he's being to everybody else, but you're not looking like
What's
he's
really
saying,
going on.
why
Yeah.
he-
Right,
Yeah.
That's
right.
exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and with this, you know, and I think that a lot of these kids have these qualities and characteristics, right? It's just up to us adults to encourage them to be themselves, to be
Right.
not afraid. You know, we have to see kids
And listen.
not
You
and
have to
listen
hear
to
them.
them.
You have to hear
Yeah.
them.
And with that, she wrote this other book, Day Before Last. That's
Day
the one
Before
that missed
Yesterday.
it. Day Before Yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the one missed. I think that's Mr. Snuggle Teddy. That's his name.
Snuggle Teddy Bear, whatever.
Snuggle Teddy. Yeah, I think that's his favorite.
Correct.
Yeah. So this was another new kid in school, right? And then, unbeknownst to a lot of kids, the kid was blind, right?
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he was bullied, and my daughter ended up befriending this kid, you know, and helping this kid out. Come to find out, this kid was actually a genius. You know, there was so much more to this kid, and end up making really good friends. And it was the return on investment for kindness. It's like you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be kind because you're looking for the universe to reward you or to run into some good karma.
Right.
Be kind because it's the easiest and simplest thing to do, and it's free.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? And you just never know,
This is one of my
happened.
favorite books.
Yeah, Day Before. It's sad, but it has a really good ending.
Man, let me read you this page here. Actually, this is a letter, right?
So you're reading a page from what book is that again?
This is The Day Before Yesterday by Nkiyasi Helm,
Yeah.
and this
Picture
is
right at the
from
back.
page number 35. This is a letter that she received from this young man, right? You said
The kid who was
I forget
blind,
his name,
the
yeah.
kid in school.
So it says, "Dear Cynthia, thank you so much for being a good friend. Inside this package is my first pair of eyeglasses. I painted the lenses black so that when you put them on, you can share the same experience that brings joy to my heart. Please use these glasses whenever you need to see the world with your soul or to blind yourself against the ugliness going on around you. In the darkness, everything looks the same, but it feels very different. Let your emotional soul continue to be the guiding light. Your friend, Mike." Dang. 000 Seymour Lane, Baldwin, Michigan. Yo.
Wow, he
yeah.
was from Baldwin, Michigan.
Yeah,
wow.
man. So,
That's deep.
yeah, it is, man. Like, it actually making me tear up a little bit, man, because it is, man. It just takes me back to, man, we sat with kids, bro. We read these books to kids. I've talked to teachers who've read it, and one teacher, this book in particular, man, she actually was, she said she broke down in tears, actually, man, because something about it, I guess, resonated with a childhood experience that she had, man.
Yeah.
And it's, man, yeah, man. So it was a lot of good times back, when we were talking to young people about bullying prevention and, adults about bullying prevention, because you'd be surprised at.
You want to take a second? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Show them without sports for it.
Oh, my
Right.
goodness. We need some Kleenex up in here.
Hey, emotion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you never know when you need it, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But seriously, man, it's
Yeah.
I remember we went to an elementary school. I think it was a second grade class or a third grade class or something like that. We were talking about bullying prevention. We were using a bullying prevention guide, and I believe both of these.
We have bullying prevention guide.
I don't know. I do have one somewhere around here. I have to locate it, but
yeah, we wrote it
it's been a
together
while.
as a family.
Like
Rob, myself, and
Yeah.
Our kid is in bullying prevention. But I'm sorry. Continue.
No. It's just cool because like I said, it lets me know the value, man, and how important it is to have conversations, and that's what what I learned from being involved with Written by Kids, publishing company, watching my daughter do the things that she was doing, sharing stories that were meaningful for adults and for kids. It helped me understand the importance of reading, right? Because like I said, I'm not a big reader. I like when it comes to technical information, like things that I'm working with, because I'm a contractor and stuff like that kind of stuff, I engage in no problem. But just leisure reading is not like big on my list. And so when I started being more involved in this and reading it, like, I'm like, dang, man, you can learn a lot from look at how thin these books are, bro. We talking 20 pages, of print, and some of the messages in there are profound.
Just the page that you read.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The day before last.
It was a book of knowledge. That one page.
Yeah.
Was a book of knowledge.
And this kid to write back to her with the glasses where he painted them, black, and say that in the dark everything looks the same but feels different. So I mean, I was gonna say, who need Kleenex when you have all sports?
I know.
You could have wiped your tears with that.
I'm about to turn around and act like I'm sneezing.
Right. It's okay.
Come in handy for any situation.
Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, hey.
Yeah, but you know what? My favorite kind of people are people who are not afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry, whether you're man, woman, child, adult, and what have you. It's okay to cry.
Right.
Don't hold those emotions in, because if we still live in the world, unfortunately, where men are not encouraged to cry. Men don't cry. So what happened to those emotions when you don't cry? You bundle them in and you become unhealthy. Okay.
That's nugget number. No. That's nugget number one right there because that's so important to say.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's okay to cry. It doesn't matter your anything.
Yeah, it really doesn't
age,
matter.
gender, none of that stuff, man. Like if you're
Yeah.
feeling like you need to shed a tear, whether it's a tear of joy or a tear of sadness,
Yes.
I mean that feeling is genuine. It's real, and
Yeah.
if you suppress it, then you're not being who you genuinely are.
Yeah,
You
not
know?
only that, if you suppress it, at some point that has to come out, and you will be surprised how it comes in the wrong time, wrong place. And I realize that sometimes, not everybody, but adults that are afraid to feel, afraid to cry, they tend to be abusive to weaker people, whether it's children or their spouses. You know, it's not everybody, I want to emphasize, but with the people that I come across, I've realized that's one of the problems, you know, that all of us, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel, process that emotion, and then heal and become a better person, you know, because as a better person, you're more likely to impact other people positively.
Right.
Than to be this bitter, angry person who holds emotions inside and not cry, you know.
So that's
Yeah.
nugget number one. So that's Dr. Lindway's nugget, right? It's okay to cry. It's okay to
feel
Yep.
and process the emotion,
Right.
and
Okay.
begin to, and it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
All that makes me say to myself, wow, I need to self-evaluate, do some self-reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So my nugget for today is to self-reflect.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Are you that passionate person? Are you that person that hold back emotions? Because it will eat you up and it will come out a different way.
Right.
And anger, it may come out and you may do something that you didn't just
Yeah.
plan to do. You know, you don't know how that is going to trigger something else.
Right.
You know,
And people like that tend to project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, if I if I'm angry, you know, everybody around me, she said good morning, and she knows it's not a good morning, you know, she and then I'm projecting because I'm the angry one. You know what I'm saying? If somebody say, hey, could you take the garbage out? Not everybody takes the garbage out. There's garbage everywhere. Why I gotta take the garbage out? It's like, whoa, where's all that coming from?
You know,
It's
one thing I
very
realized,
simple.
even with myself,
Yeah.
I have to be humble before any of that.
Yeah,
If you're not
yeah.
humble, you can't self-evaluate yourself because you think you're being too critical of yourself.
Right.
You know, so you have to be humble first.
Yeah. Yeah,
To receive
humility.
That, to take that in from you or anybody else.
Yeah.
And I learned also, if you're going to be critical of other people, you have to abide by those same standards.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And live and work, live and achieve by those same standards
Yeah.
that you hold somebody else accountable to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We get comfortable and
You got it.
saying that you should be this way or you should do that.
Right.
Yeah.
When,
While you're
you
not
know,
doing
and
that.
I'm guilty of that, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, even in friendships and
Yeah.
other things, you know, so.
Right.
Yeah. It's easy to hold other people in higher standards than yourself.
Right.
So to your point, if you don't do self-assessment, you know, which it will take you being brave, you know, and have some sort of humility. It's very hard for a lot of us people, a lot of people to really face your shortcomings, you know, if you will.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Let alone in front of other people. But Rob, you know, what you're saying is like in my line of work, we call it walk the walk, talk the talk. I say you can do both. You can walk the talk and talk the walk, and walk the walk and talk the talk when necessary. Right? That's very important. But you're right. Absolutely. Especially us in positions of leadership or authority. It's important not to be a hypocrite. Right? Do as I say, not as I do. Why? Simply because I'm in power. Right? No. Right? I cannot ask you to do what I am not able to do myself. I'm gonna leave you with this actually. A mother a long time ago, you know, had a problem with her son who will not stop eating candy. Right, no matter what she did, yeah, he'll just eat candy, and no matter what she did, he will not stop eating candy, and it was really unhealthy for him. So she went to Mahatma Gandhi, you know, we all know Gandhi basically, to ask for advice. You know, so she took her son with her to Gandhi, and she explained to Mahatma Gandhi that he will not stop eating candy, and I've tried everything. And Gandhi told her, come back in 2 weeks. He let her basically tell the whole story and send her home. He said, just come back in 2 weeks. And so she was really frustrated and angry. And she's like, why are you sending me back? It's just like, well, just come back in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, she came back with her son. And then Mahatma Gandhi looked at that young man with a very strong stare and told him, stop eating candy. And that kid literally stopped, you know. And the mother was frustrated. And it's like, well, it took you 2 weeks just to say those few words to my son. Why didn't you just say that 2 weeks ago when I came? And Gandhi said, I had to stop eating candy myself first. And I knew that it was going to take me 2 weeks to stop eating sweets. So that's why, I waited for 2 weeks. And now, right,
Wow.
she was like, oh, I get it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't just their words themselves, right? That young man, I'm sure he could feel, the genuine, authentic advice and the voice of authority. And then, so those words spoke to him and he stopped. So that's why the mother was, like, why didn't you just say this 2 weeks ago? You would have eaten less candy, like for the last 14 days. But then, to your point, Gandhi didn't want to be a hypocrite. He didn't want to just tell that young man to stop eating candy where he himself,
Right.
Had,
Right.
a weakness. So those are leadership's, characteristics I try to draw from and learn from. I look at leadership in my company and so I look for kind leaders, leaders that are not hypocrite, leaders that are genuine, authentic, and vulnerable, leaders that are not afraid to be vulnerable. So, and I try to model myself after that. But the biggest leader that, I'll give credit to, my personalities and everything that I try to do consciously and unconsciously, subconsciously, if you will, is my mother. I think she was one of the biggest influence in my life.
That goes how
You
it
know.
works in family or business.
Right, absolutely.
it all-
Yeah. Yeah, my mother and my father too. But my mother, I just, saw her putting herself last. You know what I'm saying? And I often tell my husband that sometimes we didn't have enough to eat. And she would pretend that she ate, and whatever she ate, it was so good. She's so full, she can't take another bite, to make sure that all of us ate, And then every now and then I'll go in the kitchen, I will catch her eating leftovers. You know what I'm saying? And it never, until I was an adult, I was like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? As a leader of my household, she made sure that everybody in the house ate first, including my father. So I'll never forget that. And I will say, but Mom, why are you eating our leftovers when you said you ate? She's like, I'm not hungry. I just don't want to waste food. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
anyway,
Wow.
yeah, absolutely. Be humble, give yourself grace. Be brave enough to do self assessment in order to choose to correct behaviors that could be, problematic and become a better person each time.
Right.
That leads me to this. I heard a smart guy say this one day.
Yeah.
One thing you should do, and this is easy, and I found it to be easy to do. It's just simply try to do better than you did yesterday.
There you go.
Yes.
Even if it's just a little bit better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just do something
Mm-hmm.
better
A
than you
little
did
better.
yesterday, and you reach your potential.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. I am so I thought I had a nugget, but as I listened to your nuggets, and I think they're profound because, humility is I think essential, right?
Yeah.
For us that's like the first step I think to any long-term plan, right? Is to first become humble and realize that you're on a new path. That's going to take, time. It's going to take understanding. It's going to take you being real with yourself, right? And all of those things. So I appreciate and I applaud both of those. So for me, I think my nugget for today, as we wind down, man, we seem like we just can't hit that hour for nothing.
Oh my God.
But as we
wow,
wind
there's
down,
15 comments,
yeah, it's been
people
we
are
haven't had
really
a lot of
talking to
viewers,
us.
but we've had a few comments in and out of there, and let me just real
thank
quick
you.
thank the few people who have come in and asked a few questions or made a few statements. Latanya, Monique Peterson.
I wonder if that's Dr. Peterson.
It absolutely is Dr.
Oh,
Peterson.
wow, thank
and
you.
Mr. Manswell T. Peterson. We thank you both for coming in and spending a little time with us. I know you were very, very busy on this Sunday, and so we do appreciate that. But so on my nugget and how I would like to end the show today, because I wrote this down and I wanted to ask this earlier. So instead of me throwing a nugget out there, I'm gonna end our show today on us defining success, what it means to each of us, right? So, so I will start first since you have already disclosed your nuggets for today. But to me, I think success really represents a point in your life when you can feel comfortable enough to get a good night's sleep, knowing that you've done all that you can do to achieve whatever it is in front of you. Because sometimes we paint a picture of success that is so complicated that it seems impossible.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage us to take a moment to be thankful for the small steps. Pretty much what you're saying. The small steps that we can take every day when we self evaluate how we perform today, what we can do better tomorrow. Right? Because sometimes it's just perspective, man. And in my own life, I have to tell you that there's been times where I realize when I just stop letting my brain travel in the ways that it's comfortable with, and I draw everything back in and say, I need to think this way, and then I start to channel my mind into a different pathway. It truly has an impact, if on nothing else, on how I feel at that moment.
Right.
And so, if everyone is similar to me, your feelings kind of lead your life. So, this is an opportunity for us to do that. So,
Right.
so I will pass that on to either one of you, if you want to define what success looks like to you.
I don't know. I haven't reached it yet. I'm gonna get there.
Right. He said I ain't reached it yet.
You know, I can see it from afar. My glasses kind of foggy.
All right.
Hey, you
Maybe
know,
we need to paint them black.
Right. You know, same thing.
That was good. That was so on point and honest.
Mm.
For me, I think success, because I think we often use one matrix, right? Like finance, for instance, to define success.
Right.
And I think for me personally, success is when you stop chasing whatever it is.
There you go.
Because when you realize that, I can't live a wonderful, happy life without it. Whether it's those extra zeros in my bank account, or whether it's fame, acknowledgement, or what have you.
Or that garden in the backyard.
Right,
Yeah,
or that
this
got
winter.
it. Exactly.
Right.
Just, reaching that point where my family is healthy, happy, supported, successful, and there's joy in my life. There's minimal stress. And all my little babies now can fly solo out of the nest. And I have an opportunity to watch them fly successfully out of the nest.
That is a beautiful
know.
picture painted of success.
The pain is that's really how I feel. Yeah, because there's so many matrix, and everybody look at them like, hey, I have a lot of friends who love me and who validates me. I'm successful. Oh, hey, I have a spouse or a partner or a lover who validates me and all of that. But for me, it's like the minute I stop chasing whatever it is and find joy and peace, and self-love and self-care, where I no longer have to work too hard just to convince people I'm something that I'm not, or I have what I don't have, when I'm very comfortable in my everything that I am. I think that's success. Everything else is just become extra, and I do have time to enjoy it because it's just extra, and I don't dwell on it.
Okay, brother. We're going to roll the ball down your hill one more time.
Just
You said that's it. Okay, he said, hey, that's it for me.
tune back in next week, and I'm going to tell you, I might be there. I might be there next week, and I'm going to tell you what success is.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, I love it. Ain't nothing like a.
I hear that.
That's
I hear
it.
that.
Okay.
Hey, you see what this hat say? I got to keep it 100.
Right,
There we
right.
go.
I can't
That's
just talk
like
about all sports headgear. All this other stuff threw me off, but hey, I did it, didn't I?
that's success.
All sports
That's it.
headgear. And I wanted to ask these people what it felt like to be successful.
Yeah.
These all sport headgear and this hoodie I'm wearing right here.
Yeah.
This is what I'm rocking.
Right.
This ASP hoodie. It's
Yes,
pretty fresh.
yes.
And it feels like success.
There
Right.
you go.
You're
Okay.
wearing your own merchandise.
There you go. I
Right?
love
You
it.
could give, other brands a lot of money, but you decided to spend money
Right.
on your own merchandise, all
Just
sports
money,
hoodie.
That's
Right,
Oh,
exactly.
good. You better watch out now.
Right.
It's money ball.
Yeah.
that's
No, all right.
awesome.
So So excellent, Lindy. I appreciate that. That was well said. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for tuning in this evening, or for those of you who catch this show as a pre-recorded. We just thank you for taking time to check out Conversations Under the Hood. Today, we just had another conversation of, really, I think I would
Heartfelt.
attribute this to encouraging literacy. I think that this
Yeah.
show would that's kind of how I would look at this show, is like encouraging people to read, to participate in um, bullying awareness, right?
Mhm.
Prevention, if you will.
Mhm.
And I think that is a great note for us to end on, because those are
Yes.
very important subjects.
And
So
please check out Dr. Peterson
yes,
and Manswell Peterson.
Manswell T. Peterson.
Yeah,
That's
Manswell
right.
T. Peterson, 60 books and Amazon, and more to come. Children's books, gonna have more than 14 books out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, any questions about publishing, when do you start, and everything like that, please reach out to Manswell T. Peterson. Peterson. Why do I
Peterson.
keep saying
It's
Peterson?
the accent, baby.
It's
I
the
understand.
accent.
You
You
got
know
an
what I'm saying?
accent.
Peterson.
Yes.
I got it. Please reach out and just look him up. There's some free books out there. I really appreciate, this brother just giving out knowledge and free books and encouraging our children to read. So
Absolutely.
please check them
Absolutely.
out.
And look in the comments. We do have a link there to the Amazon book that is currently available free to
Yeah,
you and to everyone else. Take a look at it. Manswell is one phenomenal author, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Ladies and
absolutely.
gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. You have a fantastic Sunday. Conversations Under the Hood, and we are
All about
out.
the conversation.
Yep.